What is going on, nerds? Your weekly update this week includes turning your Switch into a Steam Deck, the possible mid-gen update with Xbox, and how the future of gaming looks to be strictly digital, and some games to keep your eye on this week. So, let's nerd out. Alright, so the Nitro deck will hold the typical Switch, obviously not the Switch Lite because that already has handles built in, but your normal Switch and the OLED model, which is awesome. It brings with it Hall effect sensors like we talked about last week here. So in case you happen to have stick drift on your current Switch, this will actually fix that for you. You got paddles on the back, so you can have programmable buttons, whether it be a combination just to one paddle or just back paddle to A or something like that. Built-in speed, so obviously just direct connect to USB-C, so there's no lag or anything like that while you're playing. Also, it does support on the back here USB in and also USB out kind of thing, USB-C as well, with the kickstand. So if you do want to play this on your TV and you don't want to undock the Switch from this Nitro deck, you're going to have to be cabled in, unfortunately. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about this. Obviously, the holiday season is coming up. So in terms of prices, they have a black edition. They do have a clean white as well for the 60 and like a matte gray at $60 as well. So you kind of got your base colors down, but obviously they got to play on the nostalgia card a little bit. So they have obviously the Game Boy $90 case for this, Super Nintendo for this, and then a clean looking mint limited edition. So it seems like that limited edition one is always in rotation, so keep an eye on that. The Elder Scrolls 6 will skip the PS5, isn't coming till at least 2026, which I think 2026 is still pretty generous for Elder Scrolls 6. Obviously, Starfield just came out. PlayStation would do the same thing if they owned Bethesda as well, in my opinion. Back in July of 2021, when RIP, I guess, Stadia was still a thing, Microsoft was reported on working Azure solution for streaming native PC games from the cloud, since they saw cloud streaming in general that being the future market. So they definitely wanted to get their foot in the door on that. They've also been openly testing mouse and keyboard support for xCloud gaming, but currently that's only working for Xbox consoles so far, which as soon as that comes out, I really want to test it in terms of latency, especially for, Halo Infinite FPS kind of, you got to have that quick trigger. Phil Spencer himself, to date, our number one competitor here is NVIDIA Gforce Now, which I still think that's true to this day even. But we'll keep our eye on both Google and Amazon with Luna. Obviously, we know one of those is dead and in the grave. August and October 2024 is when the mid-gen refresh of the X and S is supposed to be released based off these leaked documents here. Mid-gen, Series X, 12 teraflops. At this point, these consoles are pretty damn powerful. Hell, you have the iPhone 15 Pro even starting to play some video games, so that's crazy. 4K resolution, obviously they're probably going to say it can play 8K, but people don't even have that kind of technology in their house for the most part. 16 gigs of RAM and also 2 terabytes of storage, which is nice because obviously it will be digital. There is no disk drive here. There is a USB-C port on the front though, so we'll see if they allow third-party disk drives to be a thing for this console. The Series S will have 10 gigs of RAM, and supposedly these two would be announced in summer of 2024. So possibly at Summer Games Fest, since RIP, E3 is practically dead at this point. The only concern I have really with this, at least you can tell the difference between a mid-gen refresh of this Series X versus, previous, the current one we have now, just based off the shape alone. Whereas the Series S, it's the exact same shape and everything. So the person I actually feel bad for when it comes to this is going to be, little Timmy when he asks his mom or grandma or anything like that, like, Mom, Dad, I want the Series S. It's like, all right, cool. So in 2024, the rumor is at Black Friday, the current gen Series S will go down to $199, which is a hell of a deal. Also alongside of it is their new scheme of a controller. So you have some new things, some feedback, haptic feedback, which they've tried before with Forza and that stuff in the triggers. That didn't really take off from a developer standpoint, it seemed like. So this is basically their 2.0 version of this, down in the handles there. So kind of their answer to the PS5 controller. A lift to wake feature, which is super dope. My third-party controller that I have now does that. So once it's off the dock, instantly wakes up the controller. My computer, obviously in this case, the console would recognize it. And I'd be curious to know if it actually turns on the console as well. But yeah, it'll actually have rechargeable batteries, which will be dope. As long as the battery life is good, that's all people care about. New modular thumbsticks, improved longevity. Obviously, if it was Hall effect sensors, I feel like they would say something like that in this promotion, even if it's a leaked email or anything like that. And also repair and disassembly. So that would be pretty dope if you wanted to swap out the thumbsticks, if they had an option for the Hall effect, or even the buttons for that matter. I just like this sense of repairability for all of our tech products that are coming out. Both of these will launch at the same price as their current Series X and S counterparts. So $300 for the S and $500 for the Series X. May 2024 for $70 on that controller that we were talking about earlier. So save your money for that if you need anything new. Big old push towards digital. How many of you guys actually prefer maybe a physical cartridge or game in general? 90% of games sold in 2022 were digital downloads, while 10% of copies were physical discs or cartridge. So yeah, there's definitely a decline in the physical industry. I know you have your collector's edition, like I said, which comes with cool stuff. Don't get me wrong, statues, 19 inches of Venom, in case that's your kind of cup of tea there. But in terms of buying the physical copy of a game, I don't know. For me, I'm all about the storage. I know we got collectors out there, so I'd love to hear from you guys. See how much of a push this is towards digital, how much that affects you guys at all, or if, in your case, it might actually increase the price of what you have, kind of thing. So you might see this as a positive. Games to keep an eye on, though, this week are going to be Ubisoft's Division 3. This actually got announced today, so there's no trailer or anything like that, but it is in development at Massive Entertainment. They're currently building a team for the third game in the series because they're working on Star Wars Outlaws and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, so they're a little busy right now. But it's cool to hear that they're at least thinking of making this third game free to play too, by the way. Warhaven here, coming to PS5 and Xbox as well. That's going to be possibly in 2024, but it's currently on Steam right now in early access for free. But it's a free to play medieval fantasy combat game for 2 teams of 16 players each. We're going to have 6 different soldier classes you can pick from, each having unique weapons, abilities. Currently on Steam, it is mixed. We're sitting at a 51% positive. A lot of people were thinking, maybe this is like Chivalry or For Honor, kind of, you're going to have to think of defense. It's not just a button mashing kind of game, but it turns out it seems to be a little bit more simple than Chivalry and For Honor. So in case you were looking forward to possibly some defense, it looks like it's a little bit offensive heavy right now. Titanfall 2, is it back, baby? I think it is. At least Respawn thinks it deserves to be, because it got its first meaningful update in however long. Man, it's been forever. This game released in like 2016. It fixed some of those matchmaking server problems, removed out-of-bond exploits, made slight alterations to multiplayer maps, and actually put in a rotating multiplayer playlist, which is pretty dope. I didn't run into a single hacker on my playthrough, at least. The game ran smooth. The modes were fun. Even the rotational one, we basically had a rocket launcher the whole time. It had about 13,000 or so players online, which if you compare it to other games, is pretty damn good for, like a 7-year-old game at this point. Also, at least on the PC side of it, it's like $3 for the Ultimate Edition. Overall, do you guys think Xbox actually needs a mid-gen refresh? Do you prefer your games to be digital or physical? Just let me know right below that like button in the comment section. And if you ever want to see these things live, I stream here on YouTube and Kick every Thursday and Friday. Please subscribe to stay informed. And that's all I got for you this week, nerds. Take it easy.